In the days when the Israelites were oppressed by the mighty Philistines, there was a child born whose fate was written long before his birth. His name was Samson, and his life would be one of incredible feats, crushing betrayal, and ultimately redemption. Samson's mother had been barren for years, but the angel of the Lord appeared to her, telling her that she would bear a son who would begin to deliver Israel from the grip of the Philistines. The angel's message was clear: this child would be special. He was to be a Nazirite, set apart for God's service with a vow that would define him. No razor would touch his head. He would not drink wine or touch anything unclean. His strength was not of his own making, it was the power of the Lord. And so, with divine promises swirling around him, Samson was born. As a child, Samson was already different. Even his strength, far beyond any normal man's, began to show early on. He was a force to be reckoned with. But it wasn't just his strength that made him remarkable, it was his fierce sense of justice. He didn't stand idly by when the Israelites were oppressed, and he was determined to make the Philistines pay for their cruelty. One of the first encounters with the Philistines that would cement Samson's legend occurred when he traveled to Timnah to find a wife. But this wasn't a simple courtship. It would become the first of many tests of his strength. While on his journey, Samson came across a young lion, and the beast attacked with ferocity. In a surge of divine power, Samson tore the lion apart with his bare hands as if it were nothing more than a toy. But that was only the beginning. Sometime later, when he returned to the site of the kill, he found that bees had made a hive inside the carcass. Samson, ever the enigmatic figure, scooped out some honey and took it with him. This incident became the centerpiece of a riddle he posed to his wedding guests. Out of the eater, something to eat. Out of the strong, something sweet. The Philistines, desperate to solve the riddle, threatened Samson's new bride. Under pressure, she coaxed the answer out of him, but not before Samson had to show his own mettle once again. Enraged, he struck down 30 Philistines, taking their clothes to settle a debt for the wedding feast. This act of defiance was only the beginning of the long, bloody war Samson would wage against the Philistines. But despite his valor, his first marriage ended in disaster, as his wife was given to another man in the wake of his anger and revenge. Samson's next show of power came when the Philistines, furious over his actions, came against him in force. The Israelites, caught between their loyalty to Samson and their fear of the Philistines, turned against him. With nowhere to run, Samson found himself in the desert, surrounded by nothing but a jawbone of an ass. But Samson was no ordinary man, and his strength was not limited to brute force. In a moment of divine inspiration, he took the jawbone of the donkey and wielded it like a mighty weapon. With it, he killed 1,000 Philistines. The battlefield was littered with their bodies, and Samson stood, panting and victorious as enemies shattered before him. It was one of the most astonishing displays of strength the world had ever seen. And yet, even in the aftermath, Samson's heart was torn. He was anointed for a greater purpose, but the conflicts within him were growing as his connection with God became strained. Then came Delilah, the woman of the valley of Sorek, a woman whose beauty and charm would become his undoing. Delilah lived in the valley of Sorek, and her connection to Samson was nothing short of intense. The Philistines, having learned of Samson's love for her, saw a golden opportunity. They bribed Delilah with silver, offering her a fortune in exchange for the secret to Samson's strength. She was to seduce him, wear him down, and discover the key to his invulnerability. Delilah's manipulation was subtle at first. She would ask Samson where his strength came from, and he would playfully give her false answers. The first time, he told her that if he were bound with 7 fresh cords, he would be weakened. Delilah immediately took action, tying him up, only for Samson to snap the cords like they were mere threads. Each time she coaxed him further, Samson toyed with her, giving her false answers until, exhausted by her repeated questioning and his own inner turmoil, he finally gave in. "My strength lies in my hair," he confessed. "If my hair is cut, I will be as weak as any other man." And so, one night, as Samson slept in Delilah's lap, she called for a Philistine servant to shave off his locks. When Samson awoke, his strength was gone. Delilah had betrayed him. The Philistines, like ravenous wolves, took advantage of the moment. They captured Samson, gouged out his eyes, and imprisoned him in chains, forcing him to grind grain like an animal. Samson, now blinded and humiliated, was paraded in front of the Philistines during a great feast in the temple of their god Dagon. But even in the darkest hour, God was not finished with Samson. As his hair began to grow back, so did his strength. One fateful day, Samson was brought into the temple to entertain the Philistine lords. They mocked him, jeered at his blindness, and celebrated their victory over the once mighty man. Samson, with the quiet strength of the righteous, asked a young boy to lead him to the two massive pillars that held the temple up. He stood there, his muscles rippling, and whispered a prayer to God. "O Lord God, remember me. Strengthen me just this once more, O God, so that with one blow I may take revenge on the Philistines for my 2 eyes." With a mighty push, Samson brought down the pillars. The entire temple collapsed, killing not only Samson, but thousands of Philistines. In his final act, Samson killed more Philistines than he had in his entire life. It was a sacrifice, but it was also his ultimate redemption, a final, glorious act of strength, a moment when God used his flaws and his victories for the deliverance of Israel. Samson's story is a vivid tapestry of raw power, betrayal, and redemption. His life is a testament to the complexity of the human spirit, how even the strongest can falter, but through God's grace, even the weakest can rise again.